Welcome to Off the Record, talking real estate with Joe and Makayla. If you're interested in the Portland, Oregon real estate market and want the unvarnished inside scoop, you've come to the right place. Thanks for giving us a listen. Okay, well, welcome everyone to another episode of Off the Record. Makayla, how are you?
I'm good. It's Friday. We're headed into the weekend and I'm in a good mood. How are you?
I'm doing great. Yeah, it's been a long week, but good to be at Friday. Yeah, you know how it is at the end of the week. You just think that you're going to get a little bit of time to work on different things and projects and whatnot, and then all of a sudden, bang, everything happens at once. It's kind of that day.
Yeah.
So
I feel ya.
But it is a happy Friday. Anyways, we have got a great podcast today, and why don't you tell our listeners a little bit about what we got going?
Yeah, so we realized we haven't talked about what the current market looks like at the beach in a while. So we wanted to dive into that. So we looked at the North Coast area just because we think it's better to break it up. So we're going to start with what that means if you're a buyer at the beach, and then what that means if you're a seller at the beach right now. And then we're going to look at what the current data says, kind of our experiences with representing buyers and sellers out there right now. And then we're going to talk about what it takes to finance a second home, because that has gotten a little trickier over the years. And then we're going to end with chatting about our favorite restaurants at the beach.
I love the restaurants at the beach. And by the way, the beach is my happy place. You know that.
Do you want to just pack up and go right now?
Oh, I would in a heartbeat. You kidding me? Just get the dogs in the truck and go. I know. That'd be wonderful. Alas, not to be today.
Here we are, but that's okay.
Yeah, so I've actually been working closely with a couple of clients of mine trying to find property at the beach. And I've been following the beach for years and years and years, ever since I became an Oregonian back in the 80s. You know, I made a couple of trips out to the beach when I was in college, and it was just like, holy smokes, the Oregon coast is the absolute best. I just love it.
It's special.
It is special. And I went to high school in Washington, and Washington beaches, you know, it has Puget Sound and everything, but there's no real beaches. For the most part, you just don't get that experience in Washington. So coming to Oregon, being able to have that experience, I just fell in love immediately, and it is just my happy place. And I know that's the same for a lot of other people. And now we have quite a few clients actually who have bought at the coast and are currently looking at the coast. Just kind of an overview. We're going to be talking about basically Gearhart, Seaside, Cannon Beach, Arch Cape, Manzanita a little bit. Pacific City is wonderful, and Rockaway. That overview of affordability. Rockaway is by far the most affordable spot on the beach right now. It doesn't have a lot of the amenities and the cool stuff that you're going to find at some of the other spots. But as far as getting into a beach house, especially anything on the beach, it is by far and away the most affordable. But right now, you know, I have clients that are looking for beach homes, majority on the water, but also condos. Condos are hard to find at the beach, Makayla. It's amazing. And for the most part, I think Seaside is really, as far as North Coast goes, really the only spot where you're going to find some options when it comes to condos. But there are some really, really cool spots in Seaside. Maybe we'll do another show on condos and that type of thing. But for the most part, we're talking about homes in this episode.
It was interesting to dive into the condos since you were looking at a few. I never really thought about the fact that condos obviously have an HOA, which is, you know, a steep price to pay every month, but then they maintain your property. So that's kind of a nice trade-off. You know, if you're looking to buy a second home, but you don't want to rent it out and it's truly your own second home, I mean, just doing that maintenance is a lot of work. So I thought that was an interesting alternative. Yeah.
And last week I looked at a building in just off the Prom, Broadway in Seaside, that amazing views of the beach in Seaside. And, you know, it had a indoor pool, a sauna, hot tub, secure entry, really, really cool for, you know, there was $500 up to $600,000. The HOA was $1,000 a month for all that. But so, you know, those price points when you're looking at trying to get something where you can actually sit on a patio and look at the Oregon coast and at the beach, it can be affordable. And especially with condos, it can be low maintenance.
So I know the data says there's a lot of inventory, but when I'm just poking around, you know, looking at listings at the beach, it still feels like there's not a ton to look at.
Right.
How has that been with, touring with buyers? Are you showing them 10 properties a day, or what's it been like?
Yeah. So making a trip to the coast for us, I only live, I'm an hour away. So it's not a big deal for me to bump out there and go show property and then come back. But usually it's 4 to 6 properties that we're looking at a time. And yeah, I mean, Gearhart has some inventory. Seaside has more. But as far as what my clients have been looking for is a larger beach house where they can have family, that type of thing. Just not a ton. And like anything in our business right now, you need to be prepared. You need to be approved, have your financing put together, and you need to be ready to jump when those things happen. That condo that I mentioned that in that building just off the prom in Seaside, we were the first ones to look at it on the first day it went on the market. And within 4 or 5 days, it had 3 offers and went sale pending right away. So the buyers for the coast really, really increased after the pandemic. I think people thought about, how do I want to live my life? What do I want my lifestyle to look like? And the Oregon coast is, lifestyle-wise, just absolutely amazing. And that's continued on even, 4 years on now after the pandemic. So if you're looking at doing something like that, just make sure you've met with your financial person and you have that laid out. And then also, I meet with my clients and just let them know, okay, what are you looking for? Let's try to identify which area is the best for you. And sometimes that means going and visiting, 3 or 4 different towns along the coast to find out what's your vibe, what do you want to have out of this? And each one of those is so incredibly different that usually people will look at it and go, I'm really thinking South Seaside, or I'm thinking that, Manzanita is my spot, or something like that. It just depends. But having that knowledge up front, I think, is super helpful, because if you're looking up and down the coast all the time, that can be tough. Mm-hmm. It's tough to cover that much ground, especially when the really, really good stuff moves fast.
Couldn't agree more.
Should we talk home prices a little bit?
We should. I'm excited for you to share that.
Yeah. So values, if you're looking at Gearhart Seaside, average home value is, $500,000. Cannon Beach values around $915,000. Arch Cape, $1 million. Manzanita is in the 900s. Rockaway is more in the 500 or 600s. Pacific City, right, 600,000-700,000. Not a lot of inventory down there, but spectacular beach and, a pretty quiet community. So that's where values are at. But we know that values are much different than list price. Mm-hmm. And when you look at the current list price, like Gearhart isn't a lot different than value. It's $650,000. But when you get to Cannon Beach, $1.8 million is where the median is. So a ton of $2 million plus properties. And there's just not a lot you're going to find for under $1 million. And if it is, it's off the beach. And
it's a 2-bedroom, 1-bath total fixer.
Right. As far as getting a lot of home for your dollar, Cannon Beach is really difficult, right? Arch Cape, their median list price is $2.6 million right now. So yeah, spectacular homes. Manzanita has a little bit more to choose from. Rockaway, quite a bit more. Pacific City, there's limited inventory, but it does go down into the 500, sometimes even below 500,000. So that's kind of a flavor of what you're looking for there.
It's all over the place.
It really is all over the place.
I thought it was interesting to see, just kind of crazy that we had a 7.1% increase from last year in the average sale price for all the homes at the beach. So it's just not, the trends that we're seeing here in town. So
yeah,
it's just interesting to see that it's still skyrocketing over there.
Yeah, prices are continuing to go up. Inventory has not changed hardly at all. If you look at the year-over-year growth, there's negative in some areas, right? So there's less homes on the market now than there were last year, like in Arch Cape. It's pretty much flat in Cannon Beach. Seaside has maybe, I think, a 2.5% increase, something like that. So not a lot's changing out there. If you do want to get into a second home at the beach, I'm not going to say time is of the essence, but if you're thinking that prices are going to go down, if that market's going to change, it's not.
Yeah.
It's really not. So you really need to kind of get on it. Otherwise, it's just going to be less affordable, and we know that prices outstrip income and household income and those type of things quite a bit. And it's the same at the beach. We're actually seeing a lot more out of state investors as well. A lot of people are starting to realize that the Oregon coast is a gem. And when you look at, being on the beach in California versus being on the beach in Oregon, it's still super affordable. So that's kind of the competition you're looking at.
Which is crazy. I kind of think of it this way, similar to in town, maybe think about getting into something at maybe a little more affordable of a price point, holding that for a couple years, maybe making a couple changes, because we know that values are still increasing so steadily and we don't expect it to change. In 3 to 5 years, then you can buy your dream beach house.
Right. And as far as a second home goes, there are restrictions that we'll talk about here in a minute as far as can you rent it? Short-term rentals, a little bit of a gray area, but how does that all factor in? So, yeah, I mean, it's an amazing opportunity, but at the same time, you really have to be knowledgeable about how you do it. And there are so many different ways that you can finance these things. And for the most part, if you just go online and start looking at it, most people are going to look at it and say, oh, it's just not affordable. Well, there's different programs that it can be doable. You just have to know the path to get there. And we always talk about reaching out to your professional early, right? The beach is the absolute pinnacle of that.
Yeah.
You got to talk to your lender. You got to talk to your professional real estate broker early about what you're trying to get done so that you can be knowledgeable before you start your search.
And not to be a Debbie Downer, but along with that, talk to your insurance person because insurance has also gone up over there, as you can imagine. And flood insurance is not cheap.
Right.
So, yeah, be prepared.
Yeah. So let's talk about the financing side of it. What are your thoughts? What have you been seeing as far as what it takes to get a second home financed?
Well, from my understanding, most of our clients have been at least 20% down. And just talking with Todd, our trusted mortgage broker, he also recommends that there's not really a ton of programs where you can put down less than 20% for a second home.
That's Todd Gittison at Vantage Mortgage Group, by the way. Quick shout out to our guy.
We got to find a way to plug him every episode because he's really that good.
Yeah, he is really, really good. So a second home is considered a vacation property that is not going to be rented out and for sole use of the owner and their family. Note that it can be rented out to friends and family, but property management is not allowed, and Airbnb VRBO seems to be a gray area, like I mentioned. After the initial 12 months, the owner can rent it out as much as they wish, which is a change. I did not know that until recently here.
So I know Todd was kind enough to get us some numbers for interest rates with these loans. Do you want to talk a little bit about that?
Sure. The thing that struck me is incredible difference between the interest rate for different down payments. For primary residents, we're looking 6 3/4, something like that right now. Rates have gone up a little bit. By the time this pod gets out, they may have gone down again. So just, take that with a grain of salt. Second home occupancy. So with a 780 credit score, 20% down, non-first time home buyer, a 30-year fixed rate mortgage, it's over a point higher for that second home. So you're looking at 7.875, which is, compared to where we've been, it's up there. That's for 20% down. If you move that to 25% down, that second home rate goes down to 7.125. That's huge. That is absolutely huge for 5%. And if you go 30% down, you're looking at under 7%, so 6.875. So that's something to consider, is that down payment makes a huge difference.
Yeah, they want to see that you're not a risky borrower.
Yeah, I think what happened was they got burned in the last financial downturn, 2008 to 2010 especially, and some things changed after that. But then also 2020, around the pandemic, a ton of people went out to the beach, bought everything, and it skyrocketed pricing and all sorts of stuff like that. But lenders started to realize a lot of our riskier loans were in these second homes. So they've made some adjustments with that. But the biggest thing, that we can convey today is down payment makes a difference. And so if you want to get that lower rate, be prepared to put a bigger down. The other side of it is the beach is similar to our Portland metro market, where you can ask for help from the seller. You can get that closing cost built in there and get that rate bought down, which is a great way to get this done. So instead of having the 30% down, you can do 20% and then ask for the seller to come back with X amount of closing cost credits that you use to buy down your rate and make your monthly payment more agreeable. That's kind of the lowdown with that. I think that kind of covers it. There's not a lot to this scenario besides knowing and understanding what you're looking for, what area fits you, talking to your lender early and your real estate broker early to figure out what your plan is going to be. And then from there, you just got to be hyper vigilant. And, a lot of that's on us as the professionals to say, oh, hey, this just came on the market. Another thing I want to add, Makayla, is the beach is a different animal when it comes to real estate, right? There's a lot of brokers that work out there, live out there full time. And there's a lot of us that live in Portland Metro who have, all the clients that are buying these properties that go out there. And having a professional who has done business out there, has the network, has the relationships, is as critical as any other real estate transaction out there, even more so, because knowing what's coming on the market, knowing who the big players are, a lot of people at the beach list their homes with brokers that are 100% at the beach. We've listed a bunch of property out there and done really well with that, but some prefer to use those beach brokers. Having those networks and being able to reach out to those people is incredibly important. And the other thing I'll plug out is Cascade Hassan Sotheby's has an amazing presence at the coast. We have some of the most incredible brokers out there, and I'll call them up. I'll shout out to Nikki Whittle out there, who is an absolute rock star professional. If I've got a question about something, I can call her and just say, hey, it's a little bit different at the beach with this. What are your thoughts around this? Or what do you hear about anything coming on the market on the beach in this town? And, being able to have those connections with people is incredible because, just like here in Portland, there's some neighborhoods that if something's coming on the market and you know about it and you can get in there first, it makes a difference.
Agreed.
Yeah.
And I think with that, it's important to have somebody that's representing you and only you. I think a lot of people, they're on vacation at the beach. They see this property that actually might pencil out for them. They get super excited. And then they try to have the listing broker represent them and the sellers. And I think, as a buyer, that can get a little tricky.
Yeah.
But yeah, I couldn't speak more highly of our network out there. Like he said, Nikki Whittle is the best. And they're in the office on the weekends answering questions and talking about property. Yeah. It's good to know that we have someone out there.
We got to interview Nikki.
I was going to say.
Yeah.
She needs to be on the pod.
She's fantastic. And there's a whole bunch more that are super great, and we'll give a shout out to them at a later date. Okay, let's move on to the part of the podcast that I am, me, I'm all about the food. All about the food, the eats. So
I love sharing these with people, especially folks who haven't been to the Oregon coast before, and and our clients reach out and ask for recommendations. So what's your favorite restaurants?
As far as let's start at the top. Gerhardt, has a few things, but really it's mostly in Seaside there. I love the Times Theater and Public House right on Broadway.
So cool.
It is so cool. It's a old movie theater that they converted into a big restaurant brewery, and it's majority sports, but they also have other things that they do. And it's done in a way, they've taken out all the seating for the most part, and there's tables, but it's graduated, so it still kind of looks like a theater. And everyone has a great view of the huge movie theater screen. The food is good. There's a balcony up top you can go sit in. It's just a really cool spot. And it's right there in the heart of everything in Seaside.
It's really cool. It gets pretty rowdy in there when there's a duck game on.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it gets rowdy for a lot of stuff.
It's cozy, Sometimes if it's a little sprinkly and gray out at the beach, that's a really good spot.
So that's Seaside. What do you have for Cannon?
Oh my gosh, this is my favorite restaurant of all time, the Lazy Susan in Cannon Beach. It's this adorable little house converted to a restaurant. I wish I knew the woman's name that owns it, but she is operating that restaurant every day. They do crab benedict and they do a fresh pastry every day.
I love it.
I know,
oh my
it's
gosh.
tasty.
Down in Pacific City, there's the Pelican Brewery. And we love Pacific City. We have friends that own property down there. We've sold some places down there, and we love going down there. And the Pelican is right on the beach, and you can sit outside and have your meal, have a beer. It's a brewery. They have great beer there, but you can sit right on the beach. And on a nice sunny day, there is nothing better than having lunch out there and just, and they're great. They don't, they know people are just going to hang. So they don't bug you about turning tables and all that type of stuff. But it's just a really, really cool spot. Have you been there?
Oh, yeah. It's so special.
Yeah.
Oh, my gosh.
Yeah.
The trick is to put your name in there and then go climb the hill. And then usually by the time you're done with the hill, they're calling your name.
Yeah. Yeah.
Insider tip.
Yeah. The Pelican also has a location in Cannon Beach. Not on the beach, but really good food, and it's huge. So, I mean, most of the time you don't have to worry about a line or anything like that. So,
Yeah, I haven't been to that one yet. I'm dying to go.
yeah, it's right off the main drag there. It's definitely worth going to.
Maybe we should go to the Lazy Susan for breakfast and then the Pelican for dinner.
Ooh, yes.
Just do an eating tour.
Yes, I like that.
My other favorite is in Lincoln City, which we didn't talk about. It's a little more south, but the inn at Spanish Head in Lincoln City. Have you been there?
I haven't.
It's gorgeous. So it's like, it's in a hotel and it's kind of hard to explain, but the hotel's like on the cliff. So when you walk into the lobby,
You're on the top floor.
third floor. Yeah. And then you take the elevator up to the fourth floor and the whole restaurant is just glass windows. So when the tide's in, it actually looks like the water is going under you.
Oh, wow. That's
It's
cool.
beautiful. Really good Spanish coffee, espresso martinis.
Oh, wow.
And steak and burgers and all the things.
Yeah, you and Jacob have been there quite a bit, haven't
I
you?
love that place. Yeah.
I love Salishan Lodge.
Oh, yes.
Salishan Lodge is super under the radar as far as I'm concerned. They've redone that place. Their room service is the bomb. It
Really?
is. Oh, it's so good.
Good to know.
It is so good. And it's just a really cool place to stay. They've got a golf course there that's difficult but fun, and it goes out by the beach and everything, so it's really, really cool. Moving up the coast a little bit to Rockaway.
Oh, we love Rockaway too.
A place that I took you. I don't remember what took us out there. Oh, we had a
listing appointment.
Yeah, listing appointment out there. But the Old Oregon Smokehouse is right on 101 there. It doesn't look like much, people. If you Google it and you're looking at the pictures, you're going to be like, what's Joe talking about here? But the fish and chips there they are so good.
Phenomenal.
Yeah.
I feel bad calling it a hole in the wall because it's so good, but it's unassuming. The whole Rockaway area is pretty sleepy, but every time you go to that little restaurant, it's popping. That's where everyone's at.
Yeah, yeah. And I have to give a shout out to the original Pronto Pup, the corn dogs.
So good.
Yeah. I think that was their first location.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Yeah. But it's a really cool spot. I buy gear there all the time because they've got great sweatshirts and this and that and the other. But,
oh, cool.
Oh, yeah. It's really nice. But
Fun.
the eating culinary scene out at the coast, I mean, we could do episode after episode on this, and these are just a few that we came up with in the 5 minutes before we came on air here. But love. And we should probably do another one. I'd love to do a whole podcast about nothing except for the restaurants, because each of those towns has a handful that are just super wonderful.
Absolutely. It'd be fun to ask our listeners.
Yes.
Right in. Let us know. What's your favorite restaurant at the coast?
Yes, I like that. I need some new spots, although these are all very, very good.
I know, it's hard not to go back.
So show notes and information will be on livportland.com. That's livportland.com. Click on blog. In the blog, we have our podcast, and you can go to this episode and see notes, including some information on all of these wonderful restaurants we just mentioned. But if you're looking to buy at the coast, get your plan put together, meet with your financial people, talk to your trusted real estate professionals, and go for it, because it is the Oregon coast. If you're listening to this and you haven't been, you need to make that happen.
You do.
Yeah, it's just special.
I think that's every Oregonian's dream, is to buy a beach house at the Oregon coast.
It's mine.
And
I've
it's
been looking.
Fabulous investment.
It really is. It really is. So anyways, that's our show for today. Thank you, Makayla.
Thank you.
Bye, guys. Have a good day.
Thanks for joining us today. If you're interested in finding out more about Joe, myself, or the Live Portland team, you can go to liveportland.com. Thanks for giving us a listen, and see you next time on the Off the Record podcast.